Hello guys, this is your friend. We are back with a new fanfic. Which is What If Naruto x Sakura x Hinata x Hanabi, Part 3. And if you enjoy this fanfic, then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start a new fanfic. Naruto and Hanabi were sitting on a wooden bench in the backyard watching the pictures burn in silence for a few moments. Naruto, what are those houses for? Hanabi asked. Naruto looked over from the fire to the houses and said, they are just normal houses. The one on the end is just used for storing yard tools like a shed. Out back behind them are just some woods and a small pond with some fish in it. He stated. Do you want to go see the rest of the house? He asked, looking over at her. She looked over at him. I wouldn't be opposed to it, she said, smiling. Okay then, let's go, Naruto said, getting up and walking back over the bridge with Hanabi in tow. Once they were back inside, Naruto said, I guess we can start from the top of the house and move down. Naruto led her up the 2 flights of stairs to the 3rd floor. The room was huge, open room running nearly the whole length of the house. Every 25 feet there was a pillar for structural support, and the floors were made of a light hard wood. The curtains were white and very dusty and faded. There was a 20-foot long bar with empty shelves behind it on the north wall. The only other thing in the huge room was the 2 bathrooms all the way on the left-hand wall. Doesn't look like you clean up here very often, Hanabi stated with disgust while running her finger over a nearby window sill, covering her finger in dust. No, I haven't even come up here in years. I don't really have any use for this room, it's just too big. Even when I do have a party, there is only like 20 to 30 guests, so my living room is plenty big enough for that. I thought I might use it for a training area, but that's not a good idea if I want to keep my house standing. So it just sits here unused, he said casually. Come on, he said, heading back to the 2nd floor. Naruto led her all the way down the east wing of the house to the open door at the other side of the master bedroom. Naruto walked into the room with Hanabi. The room was only about 12 feet square. The room had red drapes and red carpet. There were 5 floor-to-ceiling bookshelves full of books of every size and shape on the north wall. On the east and south walls were windows, and in front of the center window on the south wall was a 3 feet round wooden table with 2 red leather chairs next to it. This is the fiction library. This is where all the novels and stories are kept, Naruto told her. Fiction library? You mean you have other libraries here too? She asked curiously. Naruto looked up and thought for a moment. Yeah, there is 3 total here. I'll get to the other 2 later though. Hanabi looked at the bookshelves for a few minutes, inspecting the titles. Have you read many of these? She asked. Most of them, yes. I prefer a different kind of book to read, but that's the last stop in the house. He smiled. Hanabi got a confused look on her face, then asked, so which one is your favorite in here? Oh, it's not in here anymore, it's down in my bedroom. He smiled at her. I'll let you borrow it. Just remind me after I'm done showing you the rest of the house. Naruto walked down the hall, pointing out which rooms were bedrooms and which were bathrooms. He didn't open them, he just kept going until he got to the last door at the end of the west wing. Naruto took out the golden key and opened the double doors. He led her inside. The room was about 40 feet by 80 feet long. There was nothing on the floor save for the white carpet. The walls, however, were covered with art paintings. Here and there some of the paintings were missing. It was easy to tell this because the wall would have a square that was wider than the rest of the wall. There was close to 100 paintings in the room, evenly spaced out on the walls. This is the art gallery, he said. I haven't really messed with this room much, it was like this when I moved in, he said. Take your time and look around. Don't touch the black curtain on the north wall though, he said, and eyed her seriously for a moment. Okay, Naruto, she said, slightly uncomfortable. Hanabi wandered the art gallery looking at all the old paintings. About 1 in 3 of them were portraits of people she didn't know of, but a few, mainly of the first through third Hokages, she did know. There was everything from the most boring fruit basket to a 12 feet long 8 feet tall epic depiction of the battle of the first Hokage at the Valley of the End. Hanabi made it to the end of the gallery to find two black curtains messily tacked up to hide about 20 feet of the north wall. I wonder why he would hide some of the paintings. He said he didn't really mess with this room. I guess it's not the weirdest things he's done though. She thought. Naruto leaned against the door frame watching Hanabi with a smile on his face. Hanabi spent about 20 minutes looking before coming back over to Naruto. Why are some of the paintings missing? She asked. I loaned a few of them to the Ninja Academy for teaching. He said casually. Did you like it? Naruto asked. Hanabi said. Yes, thank you for letting me see your gallery. She said with a bow. Naruto rolled his eyes. You don't need to be so formal with me. He said then smiled at her. Hanabi blushed slightly and felt a bit silly while following Naruto down to the first floor. Naruto pointed out more bedrooms and bathrooms going up the west wing of the house and stopped at another door. This is one of the two game rooms. He said opening up the room. Inside was a pool table and a few chairs around the wall, but not much else. Hanabi looked inside, but didn't enter. So Naruto closed the door and moved to the next set of doors. This is the other game room. He said opening up the double doors. This room was much bigger, about 30 feet square. Along the north wall were 5 tables about 3 feet square with chairs placed at either end of them. Just past the chairs was a weird-looking shelf that had about 40 board games neatly stacked in it. On the west wall was a fireplace and the carpet was white. Most of the room was open and there were 5 large bull-eyes targets on the east wall and a red strip carpet near the wall of the west wall. It's mainly for board games and kunai throwing games. It's only been used for my last birthday party. I almost never come in here. He stated. Hanabi asked. So where are these other 2 libraries you were talking about? She hinted with a smile. Naruto smiled back at her. Okay, it was the next stop anyway. He said closing the double doors. Naruto led Hanabi back to the east wing and all the way down the hall to where the library on the second floor was and opened the door. This is the historical library. It's mainly full of educational books. He said. This room looked just like the small library on the second floor, but instead of the theme being red it was a dark blue and had 7 bookshelves, not 5. Hanabi looked around the room for a bit, and then walked out of it. Apparently this room isn't her cup of tea. He thought. So you didn't like this library as much? He asked her. Well, I've been forced to read those kinds of books a lot from my Eris training, so I've read most of them. She said unimpressed. Naruto gave a slight giggle. I guess it would bore you then, but the last one shouldn't. He said confidently. Naruto went back to just outside his bedroom on the first floor and opened the door across the hall. He went down a staircase to the basement. Hanabi shyly followed behind the sage. They reached the bottom of the stairs and Naruto pulled out a midnight blue key and opened the solid metal door and walked in. The first thing she noticed was the floor was stone, not carpet. There was a short hallway led to a very messy desk that was about 4 feet wide and 3 feet deep. Naruto led her right past the desk into a huge underground room. Welcome to the Jutsu Archives. He said. This is the place where I like to come and read. He said with a huge smile on his face. The room was about 40 feet wide and Hanabi couldn't see the end from where she stood. The room contained row after row of books and scrolls as far as she could see. This is actually the backup archive for the Hokage vault under the Hokage Tower. He said. Naruto, should I even be in here? I heard the archives are some of the most guarded places in the whole village. She stammered. Naruto smiled at her, trembling. It's fine, Hanabi, I'm the keeper of this archive. Unlike the Hokage archive that is known, this one isn't, and all the clan scrolls have very nasty trap jutsus on them that only someone from that clan would be immune to. Instead of using a lot of shinobi to guard it, It relies on traps and its secrecy. So you're not to tell anyone what you saw down here, okay? He said. Yes, Sage Naruto, she said a bit too stiffly. Oh, good job forgetting to tell her she can't talk about what she saw down here before I brought her down here. Naruto cursed himself. Naruto led her down the rows till he found the one he was looking for. Here we are, he said, stopping at a shelf of scrolls. He pulled one off of the shelf and said, "Take a look at it." Hanabi opened the scroll and it was blank to her. There is nothing on it, she stated with confusion. Naruto said, "Oh, there's something on it all right, but only someone from the Hyuga clan can read it. Not all of them traps per se, some are just protections." Hanabi looked at him confused for a moment. Come on, Hanabi-chan, if you were a clan head and you didn't want anyone else to know about your clan jutsu, what would you require for someone to read it? Naruto asked. Hanabi looked at him questionably before saying, "Byakugan." She activated her clan jutsu. She could now read the scroll. It was just the basics of the gentle fist, nothing special to her. I see, so there's a lot of this kind of stuff down here? She asked. Yes, most of it is protected. I tend to read up on the elemental jutsu myself, he stated honestly. Do you spend a lot of time down here? I noticed the messy desk at the entrance. She asked. Sometimes I do, he said. Anyway, that's my house in a nutshell. Naruto and Hanabi left the room and headed back to the entrance to the house. Hey Naruto, Hanabi said shyly. You said something about letting me borrow a book. Yeah, give me a second, I'll get it from my room. Naruto went into his room and came back with a book. Here you are. It's pretty old, but it's the original copy. Jiraiya's writing can be a bit messy, so you might need to get used to it to read it. Naruto handed her the tattered green book. The Legend of the Utterly Gutsy Shinobi. She said. I don't think I've ever heard of it before. Naruto scratched the back of his head. Well, it wasn't a big seller, but it is a good book, he said. He assured her. Naruto led Hanabi back to the entrance of the house. Why aren't there a lot of things in any of the rooms? She asked while walking through the living room. When you have a house this big, you tend to have a room for each thing you need and not one room for a few different things. It's not like I have enough stuff to fill the house up, he stated. Don't forget to ask Lord Hyuga about the contract, he said to her at the entrance. I won't, and thank you for showing me your house, she said, then smiled at him as she left. Hanabi arrived home just before 6 p.m. and found Shizen waiting for her outside her bedroom. Shizen, what are you waiting here for? Hanabi asked in reserved surprise. You should know very well why I'm waiting here. You need to tell me how you ended up sleeping on the sage's lap, she stated bluntly. I didn't have time to ask you about it before, but now you're home, so spill it, Shizen stated intently. Hanabi got a tensed and weird look on her face. I really don't want to tell her this, but I've got no choice, she thought. Well, I kept scratching my head in the same spot over my visit and Naruto picked up on it. He asked me to lay my head in his lap and he went through my hair until he found what was bothering me. Hanabi got noticeably shy looking. It was ingrown hair. I didn't want him to take care of it, but he held me still and pulled the hair out and healed me. It was so embarrassing, she said frustratedly. Shizen started laughing, but was trying to hold it in. She didn't last long before entering a laughing fit. Grr, what's so funny, Shizen? Hanabi yelled madly. You two already act like an old married couple. He's even popping your zits, haha. Shizen laughed. Hanabi became irate and went into her room and slammed the door. The nerve of her laughing at that. Hanabi fumed. Naruto was sitting at the desk in the corner of the living room going over jutsu scrolls when a knock at the door came. Come in, Sakura-chan, Naruto yelled, already knowing who it was. Sakura came in with a few bags of groceries. Hi Naruto, Tsunade told me she gave you a new teammate for the Chunin exams, she said. How are things going? Naruto put down the scroll he was reading and looked over at her. Pretty good. She is starting to get over getting shocked around me all the time. He said. She. So it's a girl. Who did Tsunade put you with? She asked curiously. Oh, it's Hinata's younger sister Hanabi. He stated. Are you two getting along well? Sakura said in a teasing manner. Naruto rolled his eyes at her comment. Yes, we are now that I've put her in her place. What did you do, Naruto? She said in a flat, questioning manner. I seduced her. He said casually. You what? She's only like 13, how could you? I thought you had better manners than that. She scolded him. There you go again, making assumptions just like the rest of the village. He stated. His patience was obviously wearing thin with her. Oh Kami, I'd forgotten how much he hates it when people treated him like a playboy. I'm so stupid. I know better than that. She thought. I'm sorry for saying that, Naruto. She said, hanging her head. I know you wouldn't do something like that without a reason. Naruto sighed. She's 15 with raging hormones still, and she was already stalking me before we got put on the same team. I had to do something to let her know where she stood. I scolded her later for her reactions to my seduction of her. Telling her she could be killed by any guy with a cute smile and a poison needle. He said. Naruto stood up and walked over to her. Come on, let's go make dinner. I can tell you all about her. He said, taking the bags from her and heading into the kitchen. Naruto took a catfish from the tank near the stove and began cleaning it in the sink, while Sakura got out 2 pots and began boiling water and heating oil. Within 30 minutes they sat down at the dining room table with fried fish with noodles and bread. So are you teaching her anything dangerous yet? Sakura asked, crushing up her fish into her noodles. Just the shadow clone jutsu. I'm kind of having a hard time figuring out what to teach her. She is the exact opposite of my style. He said, then picked up the bread. Yeah, I just don't see you training a Hyuga either. They don't have a lot of chakra and they tend to have a lot of chakra control. I can see how you're out of your element there. She said as she ate. I'm thinking of asking Kakashi for ideas, but I've pretty much spent the whole last day and a half with Hanabi. So I haven't had a lot of time to go ask him. Naruto stated with a smile. Sakura took note of Naruto's smile. Well, she had to have gone home sometime. You could have just went then or sent a clone. She couldn't have had you that tied up. Sakura stated. Actually she did. She picked my brain for hours and then ended up falling asleep on the white couch in the living room. I didn't want to wake her, so I sent a clone to get her handler and she spent the night. He said honestly. Sakura laughed. Wow. Don't spread that around, Naruto. Hanabi will be the hero of the stalker girls if they find out she not only got to spend the day with you, but also got to spend the night at your house. She teased. Naruto laughed. I see your point, he said as he rubbed the back of his head innocently. How's work in Sasuke? He asked honestly. Work is the same as always. Sasuke is getting better slowly. He can now use his chakra to kind of see for about 20 minutes straight a day. He's just broken those 20 minutes into 1-second flashes to find his way around most of the day. I'm just glad he's finally trying to get better instead of sulking, waiting for death to take him. She stated knowingly. I'm glad he's finally starting to improve as well. He said honestly. How well is she doing at the shadow clone jutsu? Still making puffs of smoke, I assume. She said while taking another bite of food. She got the clone down and now she's working on dispelling them correctly. He said, looking at his food that he was eating. Sakura quickly looked up from her food in shock before saying. Do I even want to know? She asked, dreading the answer. Naruto looked up in thought before saying. No, you don't, he stated while shaking his head. That just makes me want to know more. She stated at him, slightly flustered. Naruto flashed his brows up then down and said. Doesn't matter, I'm not telling you. Sakura rolled her eyes pretending not to care anymore. Naruto. Sakura suddenly sounded serious. How do you feel about this, Hanabi? Naruto raised his left eyebrow questioningly. Why are you asking me that? I ran into Shikamaru and Choji not long ago and they told me that you seemed pretty close to your new teammate. Unusually close for two people who hardly knew each other a few days ago. If it wasn't them saying it, I wouldn't have asked. She said apologetically. Naruto laughed. Well, telling someone nearly anything they want to know about you tends to bring you together faster than normal. He said, taking his plate into the kitchen. Sakura followed him into the kitchen with her own plate, which Naruto took at the sink and washed it while Sakura dried them. Naruto went into living room and sat down on a white love seat and Sakura sat down in a black wingback chair near him. Did you tell her about Kyuubi? She asked worriedly. Of course not, but she did ask why I had pictures of mother and father on the mantle. Oh, there's a picture up there of Hanabi from last night as well. Naruto said. She walked up to it and looked at it and then covered her smile with her hand. Oh, I see, so you do like her. If your stalkers ever found out she made your mantle in the first day, they might just give up on you. She teased. If only that was all it took to keep them away. Naruto rolled his eyes. She looked at it for a few seconds. That's so cute, Naruto, but that's a bit more than falling asleep on the couch. How did this happen? She eyed him. Naruto sighed. She kept scratching her head in the same spot and I asked her to let me take a look. It was just an ingrown hair. She was such a baby about letting me treat it. Afterwards she told me to make it up to her and I just keep running my fingers through her hair while answering her questions until she fell asleep. He stated honestly. Yeah, then why did you get one of your clones to take that picture? She asked, clearly unconvinced as she pointed at the picture. I told you I didn't want to wake her up. I sent a clone to get her handler so there wouldn't be any misunderstandings about her staying the night. She took the picture. He stated. Sakura said. Still, that a pretty sweet look you're giving her. I never said she wasn't beautiful in that moment. He said kindly. I am allowed to look after all. Sakura got very serious and asked. How do you think she will take it when she finds out about Kyuubi? Naruto's shoulders slumped. I don't know. That is why I'm refusing to tell her anything about father and mother. I know Hiashi wouldn't tell her either. When the time is right, I hope to tell her. I think I'm strong enough not to need Kyuubi's power anymore, so I don't think she will find out like the rest of the Rookie 9 did. He said hopefully. Sakura eyed him carefully and said. Let's hope so, Naruto. Hanabi was at the dining room table with Hinata and Hiashi Hyuga eating dinner at a huge table that could seat 50 people. They all ate at one end of the table. Hinata asked, Father, are you feeling well? I heard you were in the hospital this morning. Yes, I'm fine now, he said stiffly. Then the table was quiet for a long time with only the sounds of chopsticks on plates until Hanabi spoke up. Father? Hanabi asked carefully. Yes, Hanabi, he said. Naruto would like to teach me the shadow clone jutsu, but he wants me to sign a ninja contract to not teach it to anyone else as long as he is alive. I wanted to make sure it was a good idea before signing it. I did not want it making trouble for the Hyuga clan later if I signed it. She said respectfully. You will need to get the contract to show to me first. As long as there is not anything other than what you told me in it. Then it's more than likely acceptable. He stated. Is it okay if I go visit him after dinner to get a copy of the contract, father? She asked quietly. I don't see a problem with it, but you're not spending the night again tonight. He stated sternly with a knowing look. Hinata suddenly dropped her chopsticks in shock, but said nothing and refused to meet Hanabi's gaze. Hanabi looked at how uncomfortable Hinata was and smiled. Be warned, Hanabi, the entrance is more than likely sealed with jutsu. So if you cannot get in, do not try to force your way in. Hiashi warned her. Yes, father, I am well aware that he places trap jutsus on things. Especially on his favorite pictures. Hanabi said, looking over at Hinata knowingly. Naruto and Sakura were in the living room still talking when there was a knock on the door. Naruto eyed Sakura questionably. I'm sorry Naruto, I think I forgot to relock your front gate. She said with a grimace. I'll answer it and send the fangirl away. Sakura got up from the black chair and answered the door. She saw a girl in her middle teens with dark brown hair and milky white eyes. Hello Sakura, I am here to speak with Sage Naruto. She said with a respectful bow. Sakura was caught off guard by the girl's manners. May I ask who's summoning him? She asked awkwardly. Hanabi raised her head and spoke. I am Hanabi Hyuga. Oh sorry, I didn't recognize you when you're awake. She said with a smile. Naruto, you lap ornament is here. She yelled loudly back into the house. Damn that picture, she thought as the gritted her teeth. Send her in please, Naruto said from inside the house. Hanabi's left eye twitched as she entered the living room. She found Naruto sitting on a white leather love seat and went to sit next to him. Sakura thought curiously. Of all the places to sit, why does she sit right next to him? That's kind of bold of her with all the other places to sit in the room. I think Shikamaru and Choji were right about them, she thought. Sakura sat back down in her chair. Naruto looked over at her. What do you need, Hanabi-chan? He asked. I spoke with father about the contract and he said he wants to look it over before giving his blessing on it. She said respectfully. Okay, that's fine. How about I just come over there and show it to him now? He said. Wow Naruto, just drop everything you're doing and leave with her, why don't you? Sakura thought. So when's the wedding? She teased. Hanabi didn't miss a beat. She looked over at Sakura and said. Naruto thinks we should live together first. He has offered to let me live here in the master bedroom. She said, seeming dead serious. What? She said in shock. Oh Kami, we could really mess with Sakura-chan if I play along with Hanabi on this one. He thought mischievously. It's true, I did offer to let her live here with me. Naruto said calmly on the outside and roaring with laughter on the inside. Then that contract, she stammered. Naruto just nodded his head up and down knowingly. Sakura was shocked and couldn't speak. Naruto grabbed Hanabi's hand and led her to the doorway and then turned back to Sakura. We are leaving to go speak with her father about our contract. See you later Sakura-chan. He said, hinting manner. Oh Kami, I can't hold it in much longer. I never thought Naruto would play along like that. That prissy woman got what was coming to her with her constantly teasing us. She thought while trying to hold in her laughter. Once they were almost to the entrance of the compound, they both busted up laughing and couldn't stop for a few minutes. I never thought you were going to play along, she said while still giggling. I never thought Miss Trim and Proper would bend the truth like that. All I did was imply, I never told her what the contract was. He said, still trying to contain his laughter. Well, serves her right for constantly talking down to me like that. She doesn't even know me. Hanabi said, a bit annoyed. Now, don't get all high and mighty yourself, but yeah, she has been teasing me a bit too much lately. She sees me like a bother, so she's kind of feels like she needs to tease me. She's just been taking it overboard recently. Sorry she bothered you, Hanabi-chan. He said sincerely. She smiled back at him, still trying not to laugh. It's okay. I do have to admit it can get rather tiresome having to meet new people and the first thing out of their mouths seems to be, who's your girlfriend? She said. Yeah, I've just gotten used to it, I guess. He said as he casually shrugged. Hanabi got a devious grin and said. It was fun messing with Sakura. It makes me want to pretend to be your girlfriend more often. She said while smiling. I never get to have any fun at home, it's always training of one kind or another. This is so refreshing, she said in relief. Naruto smiled back at her and said. Well, I wouldn't overuse it if I were you. You might get harassed by my so-called fan club. I'd get rather upset with them for that, and so would your father. Besides, if you did become my pretend girlfriend, the council would be all over it. You know the Hyuga clan is already holding too much power for there to be real balance between the four clans, or so the council thinks. If the Hyuga heir was dating the most powerful ninjutsu user in record history, they certainly wouldn't like it. He said the quote like he had a bad taste in his mouth. Then it would cause them problems with my aspirations of becoming Hokage. As they walked down the street. Wow, it's really true that he is trying to become Hokage. I heard he's been saying that since he was little too. That is some determination, she thought. How so, Naruto? She asked, confused. They would see it as a political move to usurp complete control over the village and the council. He stated as he rolled his eyes. Hanabi carefully said, "You don't like being referred to as the most powerful ninjutsu user in history." Hanabi looked him confused. Naruto sighed. Well, it's not that I don't like it, but the way they say it seems to over-glorify it and make it seem like it's more than it really is. Naruto rolled his eyes. Sure, I can level a mountain. Big deal. There is just tons of missions that call for that, let me tell you. He said, dripping with sarcasm. People are overly impressed with that kind of jutsu. If you honestly sit and think about when it is useful, you'll find that it is only in the most rare and extreme circumstances. He said. Hanabi looked at him like he was crazy. So if we are at war with a country, you think that a jutsu that can destroy an entire town wouldn't be useful? She exclaimed. Naruto looked over at her. Think, Hanabi, if you level a town, you're going to kill a lot more civilians than ninja, innocent people that might be under the thumb of an oppressive ruler. Do they deserve to die just for living in a town where ninjas are? The answer is no, they don't. I'd never use any of my jutsus like that on a whole town even if we were at war with them. It doesn't make sense either humanly or for war. If you level the entire village, then you lose the civilians that could become loyal to you and could farther expand and strengthen your armies in a war campaign. You would also lose resources that town may have had, like food, manpower, and the building that could be used. Any way I look at it, that is stupidity, not strength. He stated as he shook his head. Hanabi seemed lost in thought before saying, "You are right, but if you don't believe you're the strongest ninjutsu user in history, then who do you think is?" She questioned. Naruto thought about it for a moment and simply stated as he looked back over at her. There is no strongest. Hanabi looked confused and said, "What do you mean? Let's take the Hokages for example. Who do you think was the strongest of them?" He asked. Hanabi smiled. "That's easy, it's the fourth. No, the first. The third." She asked with a strained look, clearly not knowing. Naruto smiled at her. "You see, it's not so easy, is it? The first was so powerful he defeated the Uchiha clan leader and even could subdue and control 5 of the tailed beasts, spreading them across the lands to stop warring nations. The second Hokage was a bit brash but was said to be the fiercest shinobi that ever lived on the battlefield. He was also wise and working toward the noble goal of his brother's ideals. The third Hokage probably knew more jutsu than anyone in history. I think he was only 10 before taking on the title of Hokage. He reigned as Hokage longer than all the other Hokages combined. He ended up seeing the first and second Hokage's dreams realized. At the end of his life, Orochimaru attacked the village and managed to summon the first and second Hokages from the dead to fight with him. In the end, the third Hokage beat the first and the second Hokages and dealt Orochimaru a devastating blow before passing on, and he was far past his prime. The fourth Hokage did not rule long before was faced with a being of ungodly power that he had to sacrifice his life to defeat. Who is the most powerful? The right answer is none of them. The most powerful will likely be the next generation. The second had the first's jutsu to build on, and the third had the first's and second's, and later the fourth's jutsu to build on, etc. He said. What you will find that you are asking is which is the strongest in a game of rock, paper, scissors, the rock, the paper, or the scissors. The answer is whatever you need to win. Naruto stated. Hiashi clapped loud and slowly. Very wise, Naruto. You truly benefit the name of a sage. He said. Hanabi looked around. She was in the main house living room without a clue as to how she had gotten there. When did we get here? She asked as she peered around. Her father stated, partly through the explanation of the second Hokage, maybe if you would take your eyes off the sage for a moment you would have realized where you were. He gave his daughter a critical look. She shied away from her father. Naruto smiled at her reaction and pulled out a small 10-inch scroll. This is the contract, Lord Hyuga, he said while handing the scroll to him. Hiashi took the scroll and read it. I will not teach the Shadow Clone Jutsu in any form to anyone without the permission of the Shadow Clone Jutsu's keeper. Just like Naruto, to keep it simple. Hiashi thought. I don't see a problem with the contract. However, I cannot agree to it until I see your training methods. He stated, all too aware of the sage's extreme training methods. Naruto's expression never changed from his calm look. If you want to forego your training with her in the morning to come watch us train, that would be an ideal time. I know you have a council meeting tomorrow at 11 am like normal. Hanabi was noticeable nervous at this prospect. Okami, I hope he doesn't show father how he feeds me his chakra. Father would freak out. She panicked. I will escort her there myself, Sage Naruto, Hiashi stated with a slight bow. Naruto got up and said, good night, you two. I need to get back to my house and see if Sakura-chan is awake yet. Naruto made it back to his house and opened the front door. Sakura was sitting in the black chair waiting for him. Naruto, are you really going to marry that girl? She asked critically. Naruto smiled. Well, I never said it was a marriage contract, Sakura-chan. You came up with that idea on your own, he said as he poked her in the forehead gently. It took Sakura a few moments to get what he was saying. Sakura started fuming. I'm so going to get you for this, she threatened. Naruto's smile faded. You know, if you weren't teasing us so much, Hanabi wouldn't have reacted that way, he stated. Sakura's anger subsided. Oh, I think I got carried away. Sakura's expression changed to an apologetic look and said, I'm sorry, Naruto. I know you two must have already gotten that from. Naruto cut her off. Everyone we have met together. He finished it for her. Naruto sighed. It's okay, Sakura. She was just getting sick of being treated that way. She is the Hyuga heiress. She's used to being treated with respect. She isn't going to get used to the way me and my friends act for a long time. Sakura relaxed. Well, she did have me going with that. Naruto said I could stay in the master bedroom, line. Sakura laughed. That was true, Sakura-chan, he stated seriously. Sakura stopped in mid-laugh and her eyes widened in shock. Naruto, you didn't offer her to let you move in with you after 2 days, did you? How would that look on her reputation as a woman? She shouted at him. Naruto gave her a scolding look before saying, it was just over 1 day and yes, I did. She has helped me a lot. It's not like she can even take me up on the offer even if she wanted to. She has to stay at the Hyuga compound as the heiress. She can't just go moving out, he said. Sakura let out a breath she had been holding. I see now. It was just a gesture then, she said, relieved. Naruto thought about and said, it's more like an open invitation. Naruto, you can't be serious. You won't even go near that room. How could you offer it to her? She questioned in an unbelieving tone. Naruto smiled and grabbed Sakura's hands and said, come on, follow me. Naruto led her to the last door on the left of the second-story east wing of the mansion and unlocked the door. Go on, have a look, he said. Sakura peered into the room. She looked at the ornate room for a long time. I don't see why you wouldn't want to look at this room, she stated. It was kind of haunted, you might say, until Hanabi helped me get rid of the old ghosts in here. Naruto said. Haunted? I think I am a little old for ghost stories and Hanabi helped you. I didn't know the Hyuga clan was good for that sort of thing, Sakura said. Naruto laughed. He crouched and pointed his flattened hands pointing at his head with his elbows held high and said, yeah, she's like a freaking exorcist. He was clearly doing his best guy sensei voice. Sakura laughed at his wacky antics. I'll make sure to keep Hanabi in mind if I ever have a ghost problem, she said with a smile. Naruto smiled back at her and then closed the door to the master bedroom and relocked it. They went back downstairs to the living room. Naruto, Sakura said while she went back to her chair and he laid down in the white sofa. He looked over at Sakura. Yes, he replied. I was thinking, what if I took you up on your offer to live here? She said slightly reservedly. Then I'd let you have your pick of the rooms save for the master bedroom and the first door on the left of the second floor west wing. Naruto stated. If you're getting crowded at your house, then of course my offer still stands. You know it's lonely in this big house all alone, he said a bit sadly. Thanks Naruto, she said shyly. You want me to help you move in? He said with a big smile on his face. No, I was just thinking about it for now, she said shyly. You weren't just thinking about it because of Hanabi, weren't you? He asked in an accusing manner. Sakura had a guilty expression on her face. Damn him, he's gotten so sharp lately. I kind of miss the dumb Naruto that wasn't so perceptive. Not exactly, she said knowing she had been caught. Naruto laughed. You're not fooling me, he stated. Sakura got a concerned look on her face and said, I just don't want you to get hurt again Naruto. You seem to have given up after we dated. Naruto sat up and leaned over with his elbows on his knees while looking at her. Well, I pretty much have given up on that kind of relationship anymore Sakura-chan, he said slightly defeated sounding. I am thinking more like the old man these days. Everyone in the village is an important person to me now. I see them all like they are my children. I think making things this way will help me be a better Hokage when my time comes. If I don't favor one person over another, then people can't say I'm playing a favorites when I don't even have a lover or wife or even a family to play favorites with, he stated. Naruto, you can't tell me you're giving up on love. Even the third Hokage had a wife and children, she told him softly. The third Hokage wasn't a Jinchuriki whose child would likely kill the mother before it could be born, he retorted. That's only a hypothesis from Lady Tsunade. She yelled at him. It might not even be true. Naruto was dead calm even with Sakura yelling at him. Tsunade is right Sakura. Kyuubi told me the same thing, he said as he looked away from her. She replied. What? How? How can you trust Kyuubi's words Naruto? Kyuubi is a mon. Don't even think of talking bad about Kyuubi. I will not tolerate it. Naruto spat as he turned his angry eyes on her. His rise in anger caused Sakura to flinch and cower away from him. Kyuubi has more than made up for its attack on this village 20 years ago. It wasn't even Kyuubi's fault, it was Madara's. I've already told you that he could no longer control the nine-tailed fox and use her like a weapon. Madara went into Kyuubi's dimension and controlled her son with the Sharingan and forced him to attack her daughter. She chased Madara into our village where he hid and she came into the village on a rampage to find him. Madara just hid while Kyuubi was leveling the village looking for him. He had Kyuubi do his dirty work for him. Then the fourth Hokage sealed her within me. Now she's stuck in our world in what is to her a weak frail form and she doesn't even know if her daughter is even alive. Ruby is a victim in all of this too, he said in an angry voice. Okami Kyuubi is a girl. And Naruto has a pet name for her. I never knew that, she thought in utter shock. Naruto took a moment to calm down. Kyuubi may be prideful and harsh, but she isn't a liar. She has far too much pride to lie, he stated calm once more. Sakura spoke shyly. Well, you never told me Kyuubi was a girl. She stammered. It seems I let that part of the story slip out without meaning to, but yes, Kyuubi is female, he said, still trying to cool his anger. You call her by the pet name Ruby. How good of terms are you on with her? She asked in a stunned manner. We have a begrudging respect for each other and we came to an agreement after the fight with Madara. We aren't best friends by any means, but we aren't at each other's throats either. He said. So you asked her about how her chakra would affect you having children? She stammered. Yes, I did. It was shortly after we started getting intimate. He said. Sakura blushed at his words. I asked her if I could safely have children and she told me no. The child would likely be like a mini version of me in my four-tailed Jinchuriki form because of what I did for our agreement. No woman in the world could bear my child. He said sadly and looked away again. Sakura blinked a few times before saying. What did you do for your agreement with her to cause this? She asked. Naruto milled over telling her this for a few moments before saying, I'm sorry Sakura-chan, it's between me and Ruby. I will not tell you. He said with resolve. Sakura took some time to stop reeling over the information Naruto had told her. Naruto, is that why whenever things were getting intimate with us that you would suddenly pull away? She asked softly and curiously. Naruto sighed. Yes, it is Sakura-chan. That is exactly why. As much as I wanted you, I just couldn't do it. If having you for a night meant that you might die in 3 months, then I'd rather have you as a friend for life than a lover for a night. He said sadly. Sakura was stunned. So that's why he let the relationship fall apart like that. It wasn't that he didn't want me. It's that he loved me so much that he didn't want to kill me. She thought. It's not that I don't want children. I'd actually like quite a few of them. I've just come to face it that I might not ever be able to have them. He said. Might. So you still hold hope that it could happen? Sakura asked, slightly emotional as she turned back toward him. Yes, there is always hope, Sakura-chan. I still hold hope that Ino will run into my arms again and tell me that the nightmares are gone and that she still loves me. I still hope that Hinata will do the same thing and tell me that she had dealt with her problems with me. I never give up on the ones I love. It's just not the way things work with me. He said compassionately. No one has had a harder life than Naruto and he can't even have a lover. Kami, aren't you being too cruel to him? She thought. A few quiet moments passed before Sakura asked in a much lighter tone. So I don't have to worry about you seducing the Hyuga heir again? Naruto grinned at her mischievously and said. I can't promise that. She may be too young for me, but it was pretty fun the first time. He laughed. Naruto was already training with his 400 clones at the Hyuga training ground when Hiashi and Hanabi arrived. The lone Naruto under a tree reading a scroll looked up and greeted them. Good morning, Lord Hyuga and Hanabi-chan. He said with a smile as he waved them over. Good morning, Sage. Hiashi said as they walked up to him. Morning, Naruto. Where is Konohamaru? Shouldn't he be here? She asked while looking around. Not today, Hanabi-chan. He's out on a mission. He should be back in a few days. He stated. Are you ready to get started? Naruto said. Yes, Naruto. She said, a bit shy with her father there. I hope he has a way around the way he feeds me chakra. Naruto can't be so stupid as to do that in front of my father. I hope he isn't that stupid at least. She thought. She put up the cross tiger seal and shouted. Shadow clone jutsu. She created a near-perfect clone. Okay, Hanabi-chan, you know the drill. Try to take back your chakra. He said while going back over tree to read his scroll again. Hanabi started working on the clone and Hiashi went over to Naruto to talk to him. How did you teach her that jutsu so fast? He said, eyeing him critically for a moment. I taught her the basics over the last 2 days. I haven't taught her anything else about it. I needed her to sign the contract first before I reveal its secrets. She is still far from mastering it. He said. It is said that the shadow clone jutsu uses up a lot of chakra and that normally you would only get a few tries per day before exhausting your chakra. Is Hanabi unusually gifted at this jutsu, or is there some trick to the way you have trained her? Hiashi asked stiffly. Naruto gave him a strained smile. There a trick to it, and yes. You heard right about the faults of learning shadow clone jutsu. It's rather simple really. When she runs out of chakra, I just fill her back up with my chakra. That way she can get months of training done in a day. He said proudly. Hiyashi thought it all made sense now. What jutsu do you use to refill her chakra? He asked carefully. Naruto cringed and hoped Hiyashi didn't know this jutsu before speaking. The heartstring raw chakra transfer. He said as he cringed. Is that safe for you, Naruto? He asked him carefully while leaning in toward him. Naruto was relieved at his question and relaxed from his cringe. It's safe, all right. I have had to refill her chakra over 45 times in the past 2 days, but you can see the result for yourself. She can already make a clone. He said nervously while pointing his hands at her. Hiyashi's eyes widened slightly at his words. Only Naruto would take a jutsu like that and use it for training. It's something only he can do with all his chakra and still be safe, but Kami 45 times in 2 days. Even I did not think he had that much chakra. He thought. I think I will read up on your chakra transfer jutsu. One other thing. Do you have to touch her chest when you do this jutsu? I am well aware where the heartstring chakra line is. He said coldly. Naruto got a bit nervous and said while waving his hand in front of himself defensively. No, I transfer the chakra into her back, not the front. It would be weird to do the transfer from the front for a girl. He blushed slightly at the thought of it. Hiyashi looked at him for a long moment. I will give you my blessing for her to learn this jutsu, but I am not sure about this chakra transfer method. I want to speak with Tsunade about any possible side effects. He said formally. Gee, thanks a lot, Hiyashi. I work my butt off training your heiress and you're going to throw me to the wolves for using my chakra transfer to speed up the process. Tsunade is going to be pissed at me. I'll have to keep that parachute on me again, so I can survive the fall and not be in the hospital for a week after she clobbers me. He lamented. Naruto sighed. As you wish, Lord Hyuga. I'll get her to sign the contract after she dissipated that clone she working on. He said. I'll be off to talk to the Hokage. I will not have time after the meeting, so I need to get it done now. He said before leaving. Naruto was dreading the rest of the day now that Hiyashi was about to tell Tsunade that he had been using that jutsu again. It took Hanabi 18 minutes to dissipate the clone. Good, you're improving, Hanabi-chan. Your father has given his blessing for you to sign the contract. Naruto said, pulling out the scroll. I heard him. He was worried about your chakra transfer jutsu though. She said, taking the scroll and opening it. I take it this is a blood contract? She asked while looking it over. Yes, it is. You just need to put your hand print on it. Hanabi pulled out a kunai and cut the palm of the right hand, closing it into a fist a few times. She put her hand on the scroll just under the words, leaving her hand print on the paper. The scroll glowed slightly, then went back to its normal state. Naruto grabbed her cut hand and healed it. Okay, let's refill your chakra and I'll explain all about this jutsu. He said, sitting down by tree. Hanabi went and sit down in front of him and let him refill her chakra. There are 2 main reasons this jutsu is forbidden. The main reason is if you summon too many clones you can easily kill yourself through chakra exhaustion. The other, I'll show you when you summon your next clone, and it's the reason you had to sign the contract. The shadow clone jutsu can be a powerful training tool if used in the right hands. It's also very useful for information gathering. Your clone can use any jutsu you can use, but the disadvantage is if someone pops one of your clones, you'll lose that chakra if you can't recover it. In time you'll be able to summon more than one clone hopefully, and you'll need to learn control of just how much chakra you can put into each one. You can do formation attack with your clones, and unlike a teammate where you need to converse in some way to set up the attack, your clones will know what to do. He said. Naruto went on for some time about how he had used his clones over the year and how to use them in battle. Well, let's get back to training Hanabi. He said, patting her on the shoulder to let her know it was time to get up. Hanabi begrudgingly got up and prepared to summon a clone. Naruto summoned a single clone. Okay, summon a clone, Hanabi-chan. He said. Shadow clone jutsu. she said, summoning her clone. Okay, now what? She asked. We wait here while our clones leave. He said, smiling. Okay, follow me. The Naruto clone said to her clone and led her well out of earshot of the real Naruto and Hanabi. The Naruto clone said, okay, after training today I'll treat you to ice cream if you beat me at rock paper scissors. The Hanabi clone said, at a place of my choosing. The Naruto clone grumbled a bit and said, sure, I guess. 1, 2, 3. He said. Naruto had rock and Hanabi had paper. She smiled. Looks like I win, she said. The Naruto clone laughed. I guess you did, now release the jutsu. They both poofed into smoke. Well, what happened between the clones? He asked. Hanabi smiled. You owe me some ice cream, she said with a smile as she turned toward him. So now you know that whatever your clone learns, you will learn when you release jutsu. He said. Why is that such forbidden knowledge? She asked curiously. Hanabi, look out over the training field and tell me why you think I have 400 clones training out there. He said, unimpressed that Hanabi didn't get it. Hanabi looked out over the field of all the Naruto clones doing different things. So when you release them you get 400 days worth of training in one day. She said in surprise. Exactly, Hanabi-chan. Now you see why I guard this secret like I do. In the hands of someone learning this jutsu on their own they would likely kill themselves. If they learn to use it this way, they could easily make Jonin-level ninjas in a short amount of time if they could find people with enough chakra for the jutsu, that is. He said. So this is how you got so strong? She questioned him, clearly rather shocked. Naruto laughed. Well, it's one of the main reasons. He admitted. They trained until nearly 1 o'clock. Okay, Hanabi, let's go get some lunch. He said. Sure. How about we eat at my house today? She said suggestively. That's fine with me, he said casually. Naruto and Hanabi were seated at the Hyuga dining room table waiting for the servants to serve the food. I wonder what we are having? Naruto asked in anticipation. Hanabi rolled her eyes. It seems our chef knows you well enough to know your favorite food. He is making ramen for you, she stated, obviously not in a good mood. Naruto smiled. I guess that old man remembers me from the few times I came over for dinner with Hinata. Naruto stated. Well, I hope you're happy. Now I get stuck eating ramen at my own house. Hanabi huffed with her arms crossed. The whole reason I suggested my house is so I wouldn't have to eat ramen. I didn't know he was in so good with Yakiha. Naruto gave her a thoughtful look through his smile. You don't need to get mad, Hanabi-chan. I am treating you to ice cream after training today. He reminded her. Oh yeah, I guess I can handle ramen then, she stated with something mischievous on her mind. Why do I get the feeling I'm going to pay for this when I take her out to get ice cream? He mentally cringed. Neji came into the dining room looking very tired and gave a big yawn at the door while stretching. He walked over to the opposite side of the dining table from where Hanabi and Naruto were sitting right next to each other with his shoulders slumped. He pulled out a chair and sat down, not really noticing anyone else was there. Naruto just stared at Neji. Man, I've never seen him this wore out before, he thought. Good evening, Neji. How was your mission with your genin squad? Hanabi asked politely. Neji laid his forehead on the table and said. It was a nightmare. It was like babysitting 3 young female Narutos while trying to fight off bandits. Kokori has a huge crush on Naruto and never shuts up about him, which doesn't bother Chikoro and Danaku in the least because they are the same way. Why did I get 3 girls on my squad? Isn't this supposed to be Shikamaru's curse? He said in defeat. Neji mumbled. I hope Naruto gets married soon so they will give up on him. Naruto's eyes widened and he blinked a few times before saying. Well, sorry to inform you, but I don't plan on getting married anytime soon, Neji. Neji's head snapped up off the table and looked at Naruto for a moment. Then he looked over at Hanabi, then to Naruto again. Hanabi is sitting right next to Naruto. There is no way she would forget her manners and do that. She's supposed to sit on the other sides of the table. Which could only mean, they are dating. Well, that is a good political move for Naruto, and he would seriously boost our standing with the other clans. It's actually a pretty good match. He thought finally. The whole time Hanabi and Naruto was watching Neji. His face went from puzzled, to shocked, to a deep thinking look, then finally he nodded his head like he was agreeing with himself. Hanabi and Naruto were clueless as to what was going on in his head and just kept giving him a puzzled look. Neji bluntly spoke. You two should get married soon and get me out of my hell. Naruto fell out of his chair from shock. Hanabi's eyes went wide and she just stared blankly at him. Where the hell did that come from, Neji? Naruto said, picking himself off the floor. What makes you think that we are even dating? Naruto screamed while pointing a quivering finger at him. Neji blinked a few times and flatly said. She is sitting right next to you. In a noble family, a girl, least of all the heiress, only sits next to a male if there is not any other seats or if they are married or dating the male they are sitting next to. If you two aren't dating, she should be sitting right next to me. He said, pointing at the chair directly across from Naruto. Neji got a depressed look on his face. So that means you two aren't dating? He said and dropped his head back on the table with a loud thud. Hanabi was blushing. Crap, I am getting way too used to being near Naruto. I'm starting to stay close to him without thinking of where I am. Good thing father didn't see that. Hanabi thought in dismay. Man, you noble families have a bunch of weird rules. He confused look. We are sitting next to each other because we are on the same team. She just joined Squad 7 to take the Chunin exam with me. He said. Neji didn't even pick his head up and shook his head as he replied. It's still not proper for a lady to sit next to you when there are open chairs on the other side of the table, teammate or not. Two servants came into the room with several large bowls of ramen and placed them on the table with some bread and left quietly. Naruto smelled the ramen. Seems like he's getting closer to Ichiraku's ramen. Itadakimasu. He said, smiling, and started inhaling his food. Hanabi rolled her eyes at him and quietly picked up her chopsticks and ate. What's for lunch? I've been stuck eating nothing but crappy ramen for a week because of that Naruto fan club of a genin squad. Neji said, dragging of one of the bowls to look inside it. Neji had 2 rivers of tears flowing down his desperate face and said. Ramen. Is there no God? After they had finished eating, they left the exhausted Jonin sleeping on the dining room table. Hanabi stopped one of the servants and told then Neji was sleeping at the dining room table and to wake him up before Hiashi sees him. Then the two of them went back to training grounds and trained until it was almost 5 o'clock. Hanabi had managed to get her clone dissipating down to around 3 minutes. You're picking up on this rather quickly, Hanabi-chan. He said while smiling at her. Hanabi was covered in sweat. Thank you, Naruto, she said while she tried to catch her breath. Naruto started walking off to the back of the training ground and the exhausted Hanabi followed out of habit. Naruto stopped at the edge of a small river and started taking off his shoes. Hanabi sat down and then fell over backwards, resting on the ground for a moment, letting her eyes close. Hanabi had no idea what Naruto was doing until she heard a splash and some water drops hit her in the face. She opened her eyes and looked over to see the water moving around violently. Naruto's clothes were in a neat folded pile on the river bank. Hanabi blushed looking out over the water. Oh Kami, I don't think I was supposed to follow him, or maybe he is expecting me to bathe with him. I am not ready for that, she thought nervously, but didn't take her eyes off the water. Naruto finally surfaced, shaking his head, throwing water everywhere. He was thigh deep in the water, wearing nothing but his white boxers with a frog pattern on them. Naruto looked over to see Hanabi with a blushing and slightly perverted look on her face fading away. Damn, he left his boxers on. What am I saying? I'm getting more and more like Hinata these days. When did I get so perverted? I didn't even try to avert my eyes. She thought. Naruto splashed her in the face with water to wake her up. I didn't know you wanted to join me, but come on, the water is nice and cool. He said with a smile. Hanabi averted her eyes down and said, I don't exactly wear a bathing suit under my clothes all the time, Naruto. She said shyly and blushed. Naruto laughed. That never stopped Hinata. He said playfully. What? Did she swim with her clothes on? She asked, still looking at the ground. No, she did the opposite. He said casually. Hanabi blushed a very dark red and said, I'm going back to the compound. Okay, Hanabi-chan, I'll be there in about 40 minutes to take you to get ice cream. He said in a teasing manner, all too aware how embarrassed he had made her. Hanabi took a long cold shower. She got dressed in an ankle-long loose, black ruffly skirt with a lace pattern on it with a black blouse of the same pattern that was tight-fitting and low-cut down the front. She tied her hair up in a bun and put an ornate chopstick through it to hold it in place. She put on a black pair of high heels that only had 2 crossing leather straps in the front of them and 1 U-shaped strap on the heel to keep them on her feet. She went down the hall and into a small study where she found Shizen sitting at her desk looking over some paperwork. Hello, Shizen, she said. Shizen looked up and said, Hello, Hanabi, what is it that you need and why are you dressed like that? She gave her a confused look while eyeing her. Is it okay if I go out with Naruto for a while? He said he wanted to treat me to ice cream for doing so well at training. She asked calmly. Shizen looked at her for a long moment. So you two are all ready that the ice cream date, she said in a teasing manner. No, it's just a reward, Shizen, but for him making me eat ramen for lunch I plan on making it look like a date to get him back. She said evilly. Shizen smiled at her. Well, go get him then. I'll let your father know if he gets home before you do and don't be too late. It doesn't take 2 hours to get ice cream, she said with a knowing look. Hanabi rolled her eyes at the comment. Thank you, Shizen, she said before heading to the entrance to the compound. Naruto waited for Hanabi at the entrance to the Hyuga compound for 5 minutes before Hanabi showed up. Are you ready to go, Hanabi-chan? Why are you dressed like that? He asked with a confused look. Wow, she's really hot. What am I thinking? She's too young for me, still she is really beautiful. He thought. I'm going to make you pay for forcing me to eat ramen today. She gave him an evil grin. I knew that lunch was going to come back and haunt me. Oh well, it can't be that bad. I can just henge myself to look like someone else so the rumors don't go crazy. And no hedging yourself to make you look different, she stated quickly. Ah crap, I'm caught. I hope she realized this is going to start rumors all over the place and give me hell. He thought in dismay. Hanabi. This will not go unnoticed by all those fangirls. It could put you in danger, he stated with concern. Nope, that is not going to work on me. I am the Hyuga heiress, there isn't any way they will mess with me. I am not some commoner that they can pull that crap with and get away with it, she stated confidently. Naruto mumbled to himself. I'm the so-called hero of the village and they didn't care. Naruto sighed defeated. I guess I'll have to leave a clone at the Hyuga compound for a while until the rumors die down. Hanabi smiled. I was thinking of going to Rumakarax for ice cream, but I've got to get you for Neji too. We of the Hyuga clan take care of our own. So we are going to Kika's couple's ice cream bar, she stated evilly. Oh my god, she is ruthless. That place is right in the middle of the highest traffic area of the village. It's a place only lovebirds go, really lovey-dovey lovebirds that want to be seen like they are showing off their date. To top it all off, it's expensive as hell too. This girl is a demon in disguise. He panicked. That's right, I'm going to make you wish you never saw ramen in your life, Naruto, she thought evilly. Naruto was walking painfully slow through the village with Hanabi holding on to his elbow for support. What? She said innocently. I can't walk in 3-inch heels very well, she stated with an evil grin. Naruto begged her. Can we make a compromise here? You walk normally and we can hold hands. You'll get the same effect. Hanabi blushed with embarrassment. Naruto, I honestly can't walk in heels very well. I need your arm so I don't fall forward. She confessed shyly. It took them 25 minutes to get to the busy intersection in the middle of the village and everyone was staring at them. One older man said, "Looks like the playboy sage has got another one." An older woman near the man said, "And it looks like he's robbing the cradle, so disgracefully." The older man replied, "I wouldn't go that far. That girl is quite the looker." Naruto was cringing with embarrassment and then what he was fearing the most looked like it was about to happen. Naruto saw a group of 6 of his fangirls up ahead in an area 2 blocks from the ice cream shop. He had no choice but to walk right by them. Naruto put on a fake strained smile like he was happy and proceeded forward. "Oh Kami, why did I have to wear my sage outfit? I stick out like a sore thumb." He mentally cursed himself. When they got within 30 feet of them he heard them talking. Who the hell does that girl think she is dating Naruto without going through his fan club first? A tall and thin blonde-haired woman in her early 20s said. Another said, "Yeah, I hear you. Let's find out her name. I've been itching to try out my rotten egg sticky stink bombs on anyone trying to get close to Naruto." A much uglier, short, fat woman in her 30s said. A redhead with a pretty face said, "I wouldn't do that if I were you. You know Naruto is trying to become Hokage, right? That is the Hyuga heiress, not some branch house Hyuga. I don't know about you, but I'm not touching that girl." There was a cascade of groans where they all agreed they wouldn't want to incur the wrath of the Hyuga house either. The girls left to go sulk elsewhere. Hanabi had heard the whole thing and almost fell over getting up to the sage's ear. Naruto had to lean down. Even with Hanabi in high heels she was still 3 inches shorter than him. "I told you so," she lightly whispered into his ear in a deep, seductive and cheeky manner, and then she giggled unable to keep a straight face. Wow, she was right. Those were some of my most diehard fan girls and they gave up right after they learned who she was. This might not be so bad after all, he thought. Naruto was actually in a good mood and didn't have to fake his smile. Hanabi almost fell 2 times in the next block they traveled. So Naruto hooked his arm under hers and pulled her in close so she wouldn't fall over. "What the hell? The rumors are going to fly anyway. We might as well walk arm in arm so she doesn't fall down. This might be fun, like messing with Sakura," he thought. Hanabi laughed. "You seem to have relaxed all of a sudden. You're making this look like a real date, Naruto. Truth be told, I'd pretend to date a toddler if it would get the fangirls to leave me alone." He smiled back at her as they steeped into Kika's ice cream bar. "Hey," she said, offense. "I am not that young." They entered the ice cream shop and waited for a hostess to be seated. Inside the shop was 10 small tables lined up in front of the windows and a long bar on the other side of the 20-foot wide shop. The whole place was about 60 feet long and the theme of the shop was red and white checkers. It was also fairly packed with people today. Soon a very pretty, cheerful, young blonde that looked to be about 17 in a red maid-like uniform came up to them. "Hello, is it just one couple or 2 in your party?" she asked cheerfully. "Just one couple," he said calmly. At the sound of his voice the whole shop turned to look at the couple and gave them a collective gasp of surprise. Naruto could hear many of the couples mumbling to each other for a few moments before most of them went back to their food. A few kept leering in shock though. "Would you like a bar seat or a window seat?" she asked with a smile. "I'd like." Naruto started to say something, but Hanabi cut him off. "Don't even think of wussing out on me now," she said sternly with a smile. Naruto sighed. "Window seat," he said in defeat. The hostess smiled and said to Hanabi, "You keep a tight grip on him, honey, and I'll try to keep the onlooker from staring too much." The hostess looked over at Naruto and said, "Usual window seat, great sage. Might as well Kanika, she going to milk this for all it's worth." He stated, not overly pleased. Kanika said, "Ah, did you lose another bet, Naruto?" she said while leading them over to an open window seat in the middle of the biggest window in the shop. Naruto replied with a knowing expression. No. This time it was rock, paper, scissors. He took a seat. Well, I know quite a few guys that would try to lose to her for a date like this. Kanika said and smiled at him as she set down 2 menus. I'll be back shortly for your order, she said and walked back behind the bar. She slapped the counter loudly to get a staring customer to turn back around with a start. Hanabi picked up the menu and started looking over it. Naruto went to pick up his. Don't even think about it, Naruto. You forced me to eat ramen and I'm going to pick out what we are eating, she said with a smile. Naruto pulled back his hand in defeat and sat there quietly. Man, she is bossy, but that might be a good thing here. Hopefully no other girls try to come up and hit on me. Some of them have no shame and will do it right in front of their dates, he thought. Kanika came back a short time later. What will you two are having? She asked with a notepad and pen in her hand. We would like the lover's strawberry banana split, please, Hanabi said. What 2 toppings would you like? She asked and Hanabi went back to looking at the toppings. I would like hot. Naruto cut her off. Hot fudge and brownie chunks, he stated knowingly. Kanika giggled and tried unsuccessfully to hide it with her hand that was holding a pen. What's so funny? Hanabi asked and was a bit annoyed at them knowing what she was going to order before she said it. Honey, that is the same 2 topping almost every girl orders their first time here. Trust me, you don't want those 2. You'll take 3 bites and be full. A good rule of thumb is to pick either 1 heavy topping or 2 light toppings if you want toppings at all, she said with a smile. Naruto smiled knowingly at Hanabi. Okay, Mr. Know-it-all sage, you pick the toppings, she said in agitation as she tossed the menu in front of him. Naruto just looked over at Kanika and she picked up the menus and went back behind the bar. Hanabi was a bit confused and asked, what toppings did you order? Naruto laughed. None, she wouldn't even have them on the list, but the customers always asked for them. So she gave up and started serving them. The customers would eventually figure out that the ice cream was the star of the show here and not order them anymore. Just look around. You can tell the regulars because they will not have any toppings of the ice cream, he said with a smile. Hanabi looked around and saw most of the couples didn't have any toppings on their ice cream. She even found 2 couples that had the same 2 toppings as she was going to get. Just like Kanika said, it looked like they had taken a few bites and then left it to melt in the bowl. Kanika came back with a large 3-scoop banana split with strawberries on it. Enjoy, you too, she said with a smile and went over to seat someone else. Hanabi picked up her spoon and eyed Naruto. You're going to eat with me like a normal couple. She gave him a firm, but playful look. Naruto picked up a spoon and tried the split with her. Naruto watched her eyes roll back into her head at the taste of it. Oh Kami, that's some of the best ice cream I've ever had. Is that normal vanilla? She asked. Naruto smiled, taking another bite, and said, Nope, she doesn't serve normal flavors, this is vanilla cream cheese. Aren't glad you didn't order topping to ruin the flavor now. Hanabi already had another spoonful in her mouth and nodded like a child, which made Naruto smile. Hanabi finally slowed down after an ice cream headache. You know, I thought you'd be a lot more embarrassed eating this girly food, Naruto, she said while eating. Naruto finished savoring his current bite of ice cream. Nope, doesn't bother me at all. Those other guys don't know what they are missing. I am more a ramen man, but having this every once in a while is nice too, he replied. How many times have to been here? She asked casually. Naruto said. Quite a few times. Ino loved this place. That was when Kanika grandmother ran it though. Ino, I thought she was the biggest diet freaking in town. Hanabi asked unbelieving. Naruto laughed. Yup, why do you think she's always dieting? She's a great sweets-aholic. She'd live on the stuff if she could, he said. Hanabi snickered. I think I might follow her addiction. She stated, eating again. Naruto laughed. Well, don't get too hooked on this stuff. We don't want a pleasantly plump heiress. Your father would kill me for that. He jokingly said. Hey, don't kill my sugar buzz. You should know to never tell a lady that kind of stuff when she's enjoying this kind of food. She said, both angry and playful. Okay, you win, I'll talk about something else. He said in a laughing manner, throwing his arms up in defeat. They nearly finished the split before an Anbu guard came up to their table. Sage, he said before Naruto cut him off. The Hokage wants to see me, and she's pissed. I know, he stated, rolling his eyes. The Anbu said, and Hanabi Hyuga. Naruto blinked a few times and repeated, and Hanabi. Hanabi was on cloud 9 with her sugar buzz and she had the giggles. To most people she would seem drunk. Naruto sighed. This is probably not going to end well. He said, eyeing Hanabi with a cynical look. He left 2 large bills on the table and went over to help Hanabi out of her chair. Hanabi promptly almost fell down, but Naruto caught the giggling Hyuga. Naruto rolled his eyes. You're way too wiggly right now for me to use the yellow flash to get us here. It looks like I'll have to piggyback you all the way over to the tower. First, I'm taking those heels off you. I'm not walking 4 blocks with those things poking into me in the back. He said while he sat Hanabi back down and took off her high heels. He set them on the table and helped Hanabi onto his back with the whole shop staring at him and Hanabi. Naruto and Hanabi was quite a sight to behold walking down the street toward the Hokage tower. The beautiful and very giggly Hyuga heiress was lazily holding onto Naruto's neck with her legs wrapped around his waist and her bare feet poking out in front of him from under her skirt. Her long lacy black skirt was hanging down to Naruto's knees in the back and she reeked of ice cream and cherry blossoms. Naruto was wearing a calm, peaceful look that was a bit strained. Naruto was holding on to Hanabi's left thigh so she didn't fall off his back and he had her none too conservative black high heels in his right hand. They were only a block away from the tower before Hanabi spoke up from her giggles. Naruto, are you mad at me for what I made you do? She asked and then went back to giggling a bit more shyly. No, not really. It's been a while since I went out on a date. I had fun but, he said in reserved defeat. But, she questioned, still quite out of it. I'm starting to think you're more trouble than you're worth. He said, eyeing one of the many people on the street that was just standing out in the street open-mouthed in shock. Why would you say that? She said, giggling. Well, call it a hunch from the way everyone is looking at us. He said casually. It took Naruto a good 15 minutes to get up the stairs to the Hokage tower with Hanabi on his back. While he could have made it to the top in a few seconds, he didn't want to be wearing the ice cream Hanabi had just ate. So he took his time, and much to his dislike, more than a few of the council members' staff saw the couple. Naruto finally made it up to the Hokage's door and he met the same Anbu guard that came to tell him to come see the Hokage. The guard's sweat dropped and said, Please, great sage, tell me you didn't walk all the way from Kika's to here on Main Street without hanging the both of you. Naruto sighed loudly. Hanabi giggled and said, Nope. I told him at the start of the date that he couldn't henge us. Naruto never goes back on his word. She went into a giggle fit. This is the first time that I'm actually regretting my nindo. He said in defeat. The Anbu just opened the door to the Hokage's office to let them in. Inside, the Hokage was fuming mad and Hiashi Hyuga was sitting in a chair at the far end of the room waiting quietly. Naruto walked into the office in all his awkward glory with the giggling Hanabi on his back. Narrrruu, too. The Hokage yelled, but barely said the last part while her face went from mad to totally confused. Hiashi was so calm it was eerie. Naruto sighed. Please let me explain before you blow up at me, Tsunade. He begged. Tsunade did something that even Naruto didn't expect. She busted up laughing. A very rare thing for her to do. Hiashi blushed a bit. Hanabi started giggling loudly. Oh Kami. Tsunade laughing is giving me a bad feeling like she's just snapped and lost it. He lamented. Naruto took the giggling teen over to the ugly green sofa at the far end of the office and laid her down. She was so loopy that she was waving her hand in front of her face laughing at it. Naruto quickly went back in front of the Hokage's desk. She's not drunk. Smell her breath, it was just ice cream. It's just a sugar buzz. He stated defensively with his open palms pointed at the laughing Hokage. Hiyashi's eyes widened in shock before saying, Naruto, do you remember what I told you about what not to feed Hinata when you two were dating, right? He said sternly. Naruto thought for a moment. Yeah, you told me she has that hypo whatever it's called and to not feed her sweets because it would make it act like she was drunk. He stated. Then about a second later it clicked and he cringed looking over at Hanabi. So she has that problem too? He asked already knowing the answer. Hiyashi was talking through gritted teeth. Well, I'd say it's pretty obvious now. You better not have done anything immoral to her. Naruto sighed. Well, if you're talking about then you have nothing to worry about. If you're talking about carrying her piggyback style from Kika's ice cream couple's bar with the whole town in shock because she looked drunk, then I'm in trouble, he stated. And I've got 6 rolls of film on the whole 4 block of the shock fest. Kakashi said from open window with a camera in one hand and a bag of film in the other. Tsunade finally stopped laughing enough to say, Kakashi, I've got a B-ranked mission for you. You are to have those developed and on my desk in the morning. She said with an evil smile. Naruto twitched. Tsunade was all smiles when she looked at the very loopy Hanabi and asked. So tell me, how did you beat Naruto into doing this? Haha, I tricked him into taking me on a date and got him to promise not to henjus for the whole thing. She started a giggling fit. Hiyashi blinked a few times absorbing that his daughter was to blame for this. Hanabi, why in Kami's green earth would you do that to the sage? Did you suddenly forget your duties to the clan? He yelled at her. She giggled. I didn't forget at all. Naruto is always shocking me, but yesterday we played a prank on Sakura to make her think the contract for me to learn the shadow clone jutsu was actually a marriage contract. Oh, you should have seen her face. She giggled and barely got out the next part. It was so funny to be on the shocker end of the joke instead of being the one shocked. She laughed hard. Hiyashi was fuming mad with his daughter. How does that explain your actions, Hanabi? He nearly shouted. Well, that's easy. Haha, if I get to be Naruto's pretend girlfriend then it will boost our clan's reputation. Besides, you can't complain that I'm with some weak shinobi if it's Naruto. It will also keep all those hopeless bimbos away from him. She giggled. He doesn't seem to like them very much. She stated before entering another loopy laughing fit. If I can sucker him into marrying me, I can sleep on his comfy white couch all I want. She began giggling again. I tricked the sage, I tricked the sage. She started singing to the tune of Nanny Nanny Boo Boo and she started laughing again. Naruto and Hiyashi looked like mirror images of each other holding their heads in their hands for a long time before Hanabi laughed herself out. Naruto finally glanced over at him and said, Hiyashi, did you know your daughter was such a trickster? Hiyashi sighed, never taking his head out of his hands, and said, I had an idea, but this is a new low for her. Hanabi sniffed the armrest of the couch. Miss Hokage, you really should get a new couch. This one is ugly and it smells like mothballs and old people. She stated and then laughed. Tsunade laughed. Well, it's the couch that is the second Hokage used to sleep on. He was famous for overworking himself and falling asleep on that couch. She said. Hanabi replied. The second Hokage smells funny. She said, nodding off. Hiyashi, is it good for her to sleep with so much sugar in her system? Naruto asked. No, it isn't. He stated without thinking. Naruto grinned evilly and said, I think I've got just the jutsu for her. Naruto summoned a 5 feet tall vortex of wind. Say hello to the whirl and hurl, Hanabi. he said to the sleeping Hyuga while picking her up and spinning her like crazy with the jutsu leading her into the bathroom. The Hokage's office was dead quiet save for the horrible heaving noises coming from the bathroom. It was a good 10 minutes before Naruto emerged from the bathroom with a very sick-looking Hanabi. He had her arm over his neck and was steadying her with his other hand on her waist. He led her back over to the couch and sat her upright at one end of the sofa. Naruto sat down at the other end of the couch. Hanabi blinked a few times while swaying back and forth. "I don't feel so good," she said before falling over into Naruto's lap. Naruto sighed, leaning his head back to look at the ceiling and spoke to himself. "Great. Now what am I going to do? At least 15 of the council staff members saw me carrying her. I'm sorry for my daughter's behavior, Sage. We are going to have to find a solution to this problem soon. When word get around of your date with her, the council will have a problem with it," Hiashi said. Naruto rolled his eyes. To say nothing of the whole town seeing me carrying a 15-year-old girl here when she obviously looked drunk, he stated sarcastically. Tsunade said, "Well, I don't see any way around it, Naruto. One way or the other you have got yourself a new girlfriend." Tsunade, that isn't what I wanted to hear. You're supposed to be the smart one. Please, tell me there is another way, he said as he shook his head back and forth. For Cammy's sake, I just got some of my close friends to believe me that I wasn't dating her. I don't want to have to go back and tell them that we are dating, he said in frustration. Naruto, I don't see any way around it either. If you don't do this, it will look bad on my clan and you, Hiashi stated, clearly not too thrilled with the idea. Naruto sighed. It's going to look bad on me regardless. I can just see what everyone will say. Village playboy robs cradle, he said sarcastically. Kakashi laughed from the window. Look at it this way, at least she will keep some of those girls away from you, Kakashi said. Naruto rolled his eyes. Tsunade spoke. You know it's your own fault this happened. Yeah, I guess you're right. I should not have played rock paper scissors with her, Naruto said sourly. That's not it, Naruto. It's more than likely that you kept using the raw chakra transfer on her over and over. She has probably gotten used to having your chakra in her. In short, she's likely addicted to your chakra. This sometimes happens when a ninja repeatedly steals chakra from the same person. They will get very close to that person very quickly. There are even accounts where the chakra stealer could recall memories of the person they were stealing from. In your case, you just kept willingly feeding your chakra to her, but I believe the side effects are the same. Like her sticking to you like glue, she said while looking at Hanabi sleeping in his lap. That's one of the many reasons why I told you not to use it, she scolded him. Is she going to be okay? Naruto asked, a bit worried. I don't know, Naruto. We don't even have any accounts of someone stealing or giving their chakra more than one time in a day. You've been feeding her chakra constantly for the last 3 days. From the information we have, all the cases took a long time before the chakra stealer became an addict. Likely she just developed a crush on you in this point, which would explain her behavior tonight. That's why when Hiashi told me, I sent the Anbu to go get you before you basically made her fall head over heels in love with your chakra. I swear, Naruto, only you would take a forbidden jutsu like that and turn it into a training tool. You are more reckless than Guy and Kakashi combined with your students, she spat. Should I take her to the hospital? Naruto asked, clearly concerned. No, she's hypoglycemic. She doesn't have alcohol poisoning. She will be fine in the morning, Tsunade stated like she was tired of talking to him. Now take your new girlfriend home. Hiashi and I have to figure out what we are going to tell the council tomorrow when this whole thing blows up in our faces, she demanded while pointing at the door. Naruto sighed in defeat. How did this happen to me? He carefully removed Hanabi's head from his lap and shook her gently to wake her up. She stirred a bit and finally opened her eyes. Hanabi, please tell me you left that special kunai I gave you at home tonight. She was really out of it. She rolled over flat on her back and straightened her legs out on the couch. Then in front of Cammy and everyone she pulled up her skirt, revealing her lacy pink thong underwear to everyone in the room. She reached down on her left thigh and unhooked the kunai holster and sleepily handed it to Naruto. "It's in here. You told me to keep it on me and I did." She then fell right back asleep without even bothering to cover herself back up. Kakashi's nose became a blood fountain and he promptly fell backwards out the window with a few dense thumps and a loud crash as he fell off the Hokage tower. Hiashi put his head back in his hands and the Hokage signed. Naruto only blinked a few times without moving and mindlessly said, "Thanks Hanabi-chan." He picked her up and slung her over his shoulder and reached down to pick up her high heels. Naruto wore a tired, defeated look and trudged out of the office with his new girlfriend. He got out of the office only to find Guy-sensei and Rock Lee waiting to see the Hokage next. Guy-sensei started freaking out, speaking like a squirrel on amphetamines again. Naruto didn't even look at him and just held out his free hand out to his side and blasted him with an air bullet jutsu that sent him flying off over the Hokage monument. Naruto's shoulders slumped and he proceeded to carry the sleeping Hanabi down the stairs. Lee had one finger up like he was going to speak, but did a double take of his flying sensei. "Wow, that's some distance," he mumbled to himself. "Naruto," Lee said, running up to him until he got a good look at the very depressed-looking ninja. "Naruto," he said, concerned, "are you okay? You look pretty down. What's wrong?" "Well, just about everything. I got a new girlfriend for starters and it's the very beautiful Hyuga heiress Hanabi," he said in sarcastic defeat like he hated his life. Lee blinked a few times before saying, "You don't sound too happy about it." "I'm not. She tricked me into it," he stated flatly as he looked over at him. Lee thought for a moment. Who knew all it took to defeat the great Naruto was a pretty face. "I shall go out and buy me a dress, high heels and makeup and to challenge you to a duel," Lee said in his righteous voice with his fist shaking in front of him, obviously trying to cheer Naruto up. Naruto gave him an honest laugh. "Thanks Lee, I needed that after the day I've had," he said. "Naruto, how did she trick you into being her boyfriend?" he asked curiously. "Well, as a reward I told her I'd take her out to get ice cream for doing so well with her training. When I came to get her she was all dolled up like it was a date. She told me she was going to get me back for making her eat ramen for lunch. She made me promise not to hen just to look like other people, so it would start rumors and give me a hard time later as punishment," he stated, holding up her high heels in his left hand. "She wore these and she could hardly walk in them. So I had to walk arm in arm with her just so she wouldn't fall over, making it look even more like a real date. We finally got to Kika's ice cream shop," he said before Lee cut in. "She made you go there? That's the biggest lovey-dovey place in town. She is totally cruel," Lee stated while nodding his head in agreement. "Tell me about it," Naruto said sarcastically. "We had ice cream, but what I didn't know was that she was hypoglycemic," he said. "Hypo what?" he asked in confusion. Hypoglycemic, it's a medical condition where if the person blood sugar get too low they faint and if it gets too high they act like they are drunk," he said. "We nearly finished a lover's banana split when an Anbu guard came to get us to see the Hokage. Seeing as how she had eaten a lot of sugar-packed ice cream she seemed drunk as a skunk. She couldn't even stand. I had to carry her all the way to the Hokage's office with her giggling the whole way down Main Street," he said. "That Hanabi is a downright evil person for doing that to you," Lee said, nodding his head. "Speaking of which, if this is a whole misunderstanding then why are we walking down Main Street, getting all these looks?" He looked at a bunch of the same type of shocked faces Naruto has gotten on the way to the Hokage tower. "Don't you want to take a more discreet way back to her house?" Lee said curiously. "I'm getting to that," Naruto said. "I finally made it there and Tsunade, Hiashi and Kakashi basically all decided that the damage was done. Me and Hanabi had to at least pretend to be dating so it wouldn't ruin my reputation anymore and so it wouldn't ruin the Hyuga clan's heiress reputation. Naruto stated. Oh, you're so lucky, Naruto. Lee said with his quivering fist in front of him and flames burning in his eyes. What? Haven't you been listening? Look what she did to what was left of my reputation. He stated in shock. Yeah, but you always get the cute ladies and I'm 21 years old and I have never had a girlfriend. His shoulders slumped. You've already been with 3 of the most beautiful girls in the village. Now another one just as pretty shows up and tricks you into being her boyfriend. Lee cried. If there wasn't political ramifications for our relationship, I'd just hand this little one right over to you. He stated. I don't think I'll ever find a girlfriend. He said defeated. Naruto sighed and tried to think of a girl that would fit well with Lee. Well, it would have to been a ninja that trained a lot. She would need to have a big heart to see Lee for what he is and not a ninja with no ninjutsu or genjutsu. So she would need to be perceptive and like his silly antics. Poor guy, I don't know anyone like that. Sorry, Lee. I thought about it and I don't know any woman that would fit well with you. You're just too unique. Naruto said empathetically as they entered the long winding road that lead to the Hyuga compound. I think I need to change myself, maybe then I could find a girlfriend. He stated depressed. Lee, that is really the last thing you should do. If she can't accept you for who you are, then she isn't worthy of dating you. But maybe it is time for a new wardrobe and an eyebrow trim. He stated, putting his hand on his shoulder. You know, I only had one date while I was wearing that ugly orange outfit. Guess what? That outfit was actually a old road traffic uniform. I mean, come on, bright orange, so says Ninja Stealth. I can't believe I didn't know until Kakashi told me almost 4 years ago when I started wearing my sage uniform. He laughed. He thought I wore it just because I was the village's most unpredictable ninja. Honestly, I had no clue. I mean, it's got lots of pockets just like a normal ninja outfit. He stated. Lee laughed. Hey Lee, Naruto said right outside the main gate to the Hyuga compound. Yes, Naruto, Lee replied. Thanks for walking me back here. I didn't get near as many bad looks with me because of your good reputation. He stated honestly. No problem, Naruto. Thank you for the advice. He said. Well, I'm going to warm up a bottle of milk and get a pacifier ready to put my new girlfriend to bed. I'll see you later, Lee. He said, waving goodbye with his free hand. Goodbye, Rock Lee said. The gate guard stopped Naruto. What happened to Hanabi? He asked, concerned. She ate too much ice cream. I'll go put her to bed or hand her off to Shizen. He stated. That's alright, Sage, I can take her from here. He said. Trust me, I need to talk to Shizen and you're going to have some extra help guarding the compound tonight. By tomorrow everyone will have heard about our date. He stated, none too thrilled. The guard gave him a puzzled look and said. As you wish, Sage. The butler Minaskai greeted Naruto at the door. Hello, he said in a drained, defeated manner. Can you lead me to Hanabi's room so I can put her to sleep? Then I need to see Shizen. I need to talk to her. He said. The butler just stood there unmoving. Naruto got right up to his ear and yelled. Hello. The butler jumped and said. Right away. Her room is on the 3rd floor. Follow me. Naruto followed the butler through the winding house until he got to a wooden door on the 3rd floor. It's right in here, he said, then unlocked the door and waving Naruto in. Naruto went inside the 20-foot square room and spotted a huge girly 4-post king-size bed. Naruto laid the sleeping Hyuga on the bed and started pouring healing chakra into her so she wouldn't be sore in the morning. Naruto tucked her in and said, Good night, you clever little demon. Who's little? The booming sinister voice of Kyuubi entered his head. Naruto put his head in his hand and thought. No, not you, Ruby. Just go back to whatever you were doing. Kyuubi's voice fell silent once more. Naruto got up and stretched out his arm that Hanabi rode on and went out the door into the hall. I put her to bed. The Hokage said she will be fine in the morning. I need to talk with Shizen, if you would please lead me to her. He asked politely. The butler led him down 2 doors and knocked twice. Yes. He heard a woman's voice say. Sage Naruto is here to see you, Shizen. He said. Send him in, please. She replied. Naruto entered the small 10 feet square study where Shizen was sitting reading some papers at her desk. Good evening, Sage. What can I help you with? She asked. Naruto told her the whole story, but left out the parts that pertained to any of his forbidden jutsu. Ah, that kind of sweet. Now you two are officially a couple. I can't say I'm surprised with the way she left the house dressed. She said with a knowing smile. Naruto mumbled. Is no one on my side here? Anyway, I'm going to go help guard the compound tonight. I don't need any of my fangirls coming to give the Hyuga clan trouble. He said and rolled his eyes. I think our guards are more than capable of keeping a few disgruntled girls out, Sage. She said. Still, I need to make sure. I'll only have 8 clones out guarding the main house. Naruto said with a yawn. Are you sure you don't want me to make you up a room to sleep in? She asked. No thanks. I'm fine. The real me would be at the gate if you need me for anything. He said. Naruto headed out of the mansion and made 8 clones. 4 clones took up their places the bottom corners of the house and the other 4 took up the same places on the 3rd floor of the roof. Naruto then headed for the gate. Hello again. He said to the Hyuga guard. Hello, Sage Naruto. He said. I'll be helping you out tonight. After my date with Hanabi tonight, all those fangirls that chase after me are likely to be put off. I just need to make sure none of them try anything. He said. Do you think they will try to do anything? He asked. Hell with the way today's been going, I'm just not taking any chances. He stated. Hanabi woke up and her stomach wasn't feeling too well. She didn't want to, but she got up and went to the bathroom and got sick. What the hell did I eat last night? I remember Naruto taking me out for ice cream. I think I ate too much of it, and from there I'm not sure if it was a dream or not. She thought. She got up and took a shower once her stomach calmed down. I feel a little better now. She thought. She crossed the room to her walk-in closet and got dressed. She looked over at her clock and it was only 7 am. I wish I could remember what happened last night. I hope I got him back for that ramen. She said out loud. She went out of her room and down the hall 2 doors into the study looking for Shizen. Shizen was at her desk with a cup of hot tea in her night cloths. She had apparently just woken up. Morning, Shizen, Hanabi said. Shizen looked over at her. Well, if it isn't the little sage trapper. Good morning. Hanabi blinked a few times and she said. Sage trapper? What do you mean? What happened? The last thing I remember clearly was us nearly finishing our ice cream. It gets hazy after that. I think I ate too much sugar. She said with a strained look. Shizen picked up a stack of pictures and handed it to her. Kakashi took these pictures of your date with Naruto, look them over. She said, handing her the pictures. Hanabi went through the pictures and by the time she finished looking at all of them she was blushing. Oh my, that wasn't a dream. I wanted to mess with Naruto, but nothing this extreme. My reputation is ruined and father is going to kill me. I take it Naruto is mad at me. She asked, cringing. He's probably too tired to be mad at you right now. He has been guarding the compound from his fangirls all night. He managed to stop all 3 that tried to enter and pull pranks on you. They are most likely spending a few days in jail. You should go talk to him though. She said, eyeing Hanabi with a smile. Hanabi quickly rushed out of the house and headed for the gate. She found a very sleepy-looking Naruto guarding the gate with the morning guard. Naruto? She asked shyly. He looked over at her and rubbed his eyes. Morning, he said as he yawned. I don't remember all of what happened last night. Are you mad at me? She asked while cringing. I'm not sure yet and I'm way too sleepy to think right now. Just be a good girlfriend and let's go back to my house so I can sleep. You can start your practice there today, seeing as how Hiyashi is trying to save both our reputations by talking to the council this morning. He said as he sleepy started walking.